What I was thinking of doing is presenting 3 examples of different industry collaboration models that I have been using in my research, stressing what I consider to be a reasonable high bar example. These all have to do with the application of novel imaging methods and image guidance to serve communities, surgeons, hospitals, and eventually leading to improve patient care. So one relatively recent project has to do with what we call human teleoperation. Remote communities have a lot of difficulty accessing healthcare. For example, from Haida Gwaii, in order to have an ultrasound during pregnancy, you may have to take a ferry for 6 hours to reach a hospital. You cannot do back and forth in the same day. So we're interested in developing a solution that is easy to implement. We replace the robot that is normally controlled by the experts seen here on the right with a person who acts as a cognitive safe robot. And what that person does is in a mixed reality display helmet, they see an image of a virtual transducer shown in green. And their job is solely to move the actual ultrasound transducer to make it coincident with the virtual one. The virtual transducer is controlled at a distance, can be hundreds of kilometers away by an expert, a sonographer or a radiologist, who basically maneuvers that virtual transducer in response to the ultrasound images and to the forces measured against the patient. In this project, the technical development was done solely by academic researchers. We obviously did evaluate the system, develop the system jointly with healthcare personnel. This was funded primarily to begin with by an NSERC Discovery Grant, which is a curiosity-based research grant. But it later on became one of the projects in UBC Rogers 5G partnerships. Rogers is internet and mobile phone service provider in Canada, and their partnerships has been very useful in providing government and community engagement for us, funding with MITACs, federal government agencies, and technically they have provided help with communications infrastructure, and this is now becoming a collaboration as we are approaching testing at various communities. A second area of interest and work in my lab is elastography imaging. This pertains to the imaging of mechanical parameters of tissue, or if you want, a form of remote and objective quantitative palpation. In this project, the technical development was done mostly by academic researcher. My colleague Robert Rowling and myself have been working on this for many years. But we have had a sequence of various partnerships with industry, primarily with Ultrasonics, which was a Vancouver startup in the area of ultrasound, later on purchased by Analogic, which was later on purchased by GE Healthcare. But we also worked with Philips Healthcare and with Exact Imaging, other ultrasound machine manufacturers, both in Canada and the United States. We also had exchange of technical ideas and many beneficial outputs that includes technology for both researchers like us to build upon, but also for companies. And Very, very valuable to the companies has been the fact that personnel that was trained by us was later on employed by the company. And this also led to technology licenses to ultrasonics for real-time strain imaging, which was actually the first implementation of a clinical strain imaging worldwide, and to our spin-off company, which produces liver assessment device called DataCure. Now, I want to concentrate primarily on robotic surgery. And when people hear robotic surgeries, they might imagine some autonomous system that actually works on the patient. In fact, all of this is fully teleoperated, built upon pioneering work that was done at the Argonne National Labs in the late 40s by Raymond Gertz. This idea was taken up by a company called Intuitive Surgical, who developed what is known to be the Da Vinci system, which allows minimally invasive surgery in patients and makes the job of the surgeon a lot easier. The surgeon, instead of performing laparoscopic surgery with essentially distally maneuvered chopstick-like tools, there is a mapping from the instruments that you see in the green box underneath the robotic system directly to the hands of the surgeon, who basically maneuvers left and right hand controllers, and their motion is mimicked by the instruments with 6 degrees of freedom. The major promise of such a system is not only the dexterity, but it is the ability to register the instruments to the patients, and therefore also register the instruments to preoperative images. So our research goal here is to take preoperative images, which you see here stuck onto the Da Vinci console as printed images, and insert this into the surgeon's view so they can have an understanding of what lies underneath the tissue. Our system, though, is only a partial augmented reality system. For a true augmented reality view, shown here with respect to a prostate phantom, what we would like to see is both the camera view and a cut through it that allows the surgeon to basically mentally or accurately localize critical anatomy and tumors underneath the tissue surface. We started a more intense collaboration with Intuitive Surgical to try to address this problem. And initially, we followed a model in which the research was done mainly in our lab and at the hospital, when we had basically similar Da Vinci systems in our lab to the one in the hospital. So my students could basically develop technology in the lab at UBC, and then that would be ported seamlessly to the operating room. Now, the methodology for augmented reality was of interest to both our lab and Intuitive Surgical, and we found a student who was interested in and became jointly supervised with the company personnel. So for this project, the technical development was done actually jointly by academic, both engineering and medical investigators, and industry researchers. And the partnership with industry, in this case, Intuitive Surgical, provided co-funded research infrastructure, very useful research interface, funded student, both at UBC and with annual 3-month internships at the company. And we received basically very different perspectives and expertise in hourly meetings every 3 weeks for well over 3 years. The outputs include a very useful public database of surgical video clips, challenge that can be done to develop the best methods, vastly accelerated research and new projects for at least 3 PhD students in my lab and also internally at Intuitive Surgical. And not negligible at all, tremendous infrastructure for teaching and training. I would like to acknowledge student contributors that were specifically listed here. There are many more than I have listed, but for this particular talk. And also collaborators at Vancouver General Hospital in the Faculty of Medicine at UBC, as well as Simon DiMaio, who is a manager of user interfaces at Intuitive Surgical, and Omid Moharari, who is a manager in research at Intuitive Surgical. And obviously, lots of funding has been used for this type of project. I think that projects can evolve from being mainly academic to becoming collaborative and finally really highly integrated. Developing research methodology that is both basic and responsive and leading to downstream applications which are very interesting. To evolve such a project into a high bar project, certain things really have to happen, and we must have students who are excited by such opportunities. We need to have stable relationships with long-term funding. PhD takes a minimum of 3 years, in good cases 4 years, often 5 years. There have to be IP agreements between universities and companies that is truly at the forefront of technology, so they're also open to collaboration, and they're interested in and can afford basic research. Moving towards high bar projects is can take quite a bit of time. It requires established partnerships, and it requires a lot of communications and a good personal relationship is very helpful in all these projects. And to build that type of trust, I think that it's necessary for all parties to take some deviation from their immediate or personal or lab goals to make this happen. So people have to like meeting and working together. The outputs include a tremendous infrastructure for teaching and training. So in my undergrad, co-listed with graduate level robotics course, I have every year at least 3 groups of 5, maybe 4, maybe more groups that have access and can play with the Da Vinci system that has a research interface. And this is exciting to them and provides tremendous value for their education.